Data collection and analysis. The issue is that there is lots of crime in Adelaide and we don't know whether it correlates to population or income. The hypothesis is that population and income do in fact have a strong correlation to crime rates. To investigate this, we're looking at two different types of areas, suburbs and local government areas. These are SAL and LGA respectively. Now, we collected our data from two sources, the SA poll report on June 2024 and the ABS census done on 2021. The ABS provided us with all the data with population, income, all of that, everything except for crime, by the areas that we wanted, so LGA and SAL. However, the SA poll report gave us the information in postcodes only, so we had to source extra data from ABS to convert these postcode data into these area types that we wanted them to. This led to more data that we had to filter, so I'll give a brief overview of it here with more detail in the collaboration doc. So for one, there would be duplicate values of postcodes and SAL codes, all codes in all documents, due to the fact that postcodes can be partially in two areas at once, and these were identified using Excel's conditional formatting and removed either automatically or manually. This also interfered with LGA results. So for example, imagine that 50 crimes happened in postcode 5000, but 50% of postcode 5000 is in Burnside, so we add 25 crimes to Burnside's total instead of 50. We use ChatGPT for this since Excel and Power BI was hard to manage to do this, and it's much easier for AI to do this for us. Finally, since we mainly looked at trends, we used Power BI and Excel to create line diagrams and bar graphs, whilst Harry used other websites to map them. So, let's begin by looking at all the data we have on population and income within postcodes. And we have it for both total crimes and money ones, so theft, blackmail, etc. Immediately, you can tell that the correlations are not constant. They are very general and sometimes just not even there. For example, take population against total crimes. There are just far too many factors of just population that can influence crime, such as a large amount of people deterring crimes because it's more likely to be seen, or just that fewer people are likely to commit crimes, or even that more people drive the economy and create less opportunities for crime. Trying to draw the exact effects of population is practically impossible, and you can see how the trend is just so vague. There are dips, spikes everywhere. It is not linear at all. In fact, this is better seen in where we compare income. It's almost as if the factors of income's influence cancel each other out, and there is literally no trend. It's a straight line almost, even when we narrow it down to specific crimes, as you can see here. So clearly, there need to be improvements. But which ones? Well, for starters, we need to simplify it. Imagine a simulated scenario where living conditions, infrastructure, all the possible impacts of income, well, let's stick to population. All the possible impacts of population are the same, and we only changed the population. If we did that, then we might be able to investigate its effect. But this has just not happened in real life. It does not happen. And I think this speaks to just how diverse, postcodes are, even if we live like meters away, and how it's really hard for this kind of data to be really thought through and determined. Maybe a more realistic way, just brainstorming right now, would be to ask criminals of their motives before taking them in. But even they would probably be influenced by the many factors that make up life, even just of population and income. So what can we conclude? Well, we know now that by postcode, population and income have many effects on crime, but we cannot narrow them down just from our data. However, there is a slight trend in population, but again, take that with a grain of salt. So now let's look at LGA, a much larger area, so that we're simplifying it for consistency. In fact, we're also just going to keep it within metropolitan Adelaide for this consistency. And let's just start with population this time. So you can see that it is obviously much clearer here, and that in the line graph, the trend is more constant because it doesn't jump around from all the way down to the bottom to the top. It's very little jumps. Now obviously there's a difference, so obviously there's going to be disagreement. But take a look at these graphs, which illustrate the number of people per crime in each area, ordered the same way as the above graphs. It's quite constant actually. This means that the relationship is very specific and almost proportional. Well, that's interesting. But let's take a look at income. So you can see here how the total crimes matches quite surprisingly with the median weekly income. This indicates that it is, again, proportional. Notice how in the line graph, there are areas where the line follows the other line perfectly. And this isn't always the case, but it does do it sometimes, and there are some outliers. So, what does this all mean? Has the simplification from postcode to LGA really made all the difference? No. But it does help to reinforce those vague conclusions we made earlier. There's no denying that there are similarities between the data, but there are again too many determining factors in just these factors that we're investigating that influence the data beyond what we can predict with our current data. In fact, this becomes way more obvious when we consider the assumptions we made. Crime data, for starters, is debatable, since a major part of a crime is covering it up, and what we have may not be true to the real world. Even more, the crime data was taken 3 years after the census, so comparing these two meant that we're assuming these are interchangeable. They're not. And whilst this has already been mentioned time and time again, assuming that these factors are the sole impact on crime is false. There are obviously way more, so we cannot solely attribute these results to those factors solely. Nevertheless, as depressing as all of this is, there are conclusions to be made. There is a tiny, vague, small correlation between population, income, and crime, in that a higher population indicates less crime, and a higher income indicates more crime. Whilst it is likely invalid, imprecise, and inaccurate, it isn't exactly untrue that just simplifying what we have, we can say that more people means less crimes, and rich areas mean more. So anyways, it was very interesting to learn about the relationship of crime statistics and other factors, and obviously whilst most of it was pretty inconclusive and it was just me saying that it was interesting to look at how these relate to one another. Alright, that's it. Thank you.